Hi friends, Miss A here. Today we are going to talk about our math lesson 8, so module 5 lesson 8. And today our goal is going to be to represent parts of one whole as fractions with number bonds. So we're going to take a look at our fractions and use some number bonds. So we have our application problem. So I know with any word problem I need to read, draw, write. So I'm going to read through. For breakfast, Mr. Schwartz spent 1/6 of his money on a coffee and 1/6 of his money on a bagel. So I have to think, what is important in this problem? So I'm going to underline 1/6 of his money on coffee and 1/6 of his money on a bagel. Now, I need to figure out what fraction of his money did Mr. Schwartz spend on breakfast. So we know that if I draw a tape diagram, I know that there are 6 parts in my whole because it says so here, 1/6 or 6 as my denominator. So if you look at my picture, I see that coffee is 1/6, bagel is 1/6. So now I need to find out the total number of 6s that he spent on his money. So I can just count them up. So I have 1/6 plus 1/6, and we know that Mr. Schwartz spent 2/6 of his money. So if I add these two up, I know that 1/6 plus 1/6 is 2 out of the whole. All right, so now we are going to talk about our concept development. So we need to draw a number bond decomposing 4 into 4 ones. So this is something new and can be kind of tricky. So when I say decomposing, it means I'm breaking it down. So I'm breaking down the number 4 into 4 ones. So I would draw a number bond with the number 4 as my total, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 ones, just like we would in our in the other modules that we've learned about. Now I need to show a number bond decomposing. So I'm breaking down 4 into 2 parts. So I need to break it down into 2 parts. One part should be composed of 3 ones. So I have to think about this 3 ones. So how many groups of 1 can I make, or how many do I need to make 3 ones? So I would draw my number bond, a group of 3 and a group of 1. Just like how I'm breaking it down, I'm decomposing it into 4 as my total. So I can't have any more, just like we would whenever we were talking about our number bonds. So now I want you to think about the differences between these two number bonds. Take a moment, pause the video, and think, okay, what's the difference between this one and that one? So if you're thinking about it, pause the video, but I'm going to keep on going. So really the difference is that I have this first number bond broken into groups of 1, and this one has a group of 3 plus 1 over here, which gives me a total of 4. Now, let's try using fractions. So it's the same concept, very similar. So again, draw a number bond decomposing 1 into 4 unit fractions. So I know my total is 1 because I'm decomposing 1 into 4 unit fractions. So this tells me, my fractional unit tells me I need a fraction. So I have my 1 up here, and I have one group of 1/4, another group, third, and a 4th group of 1/4. So I'm keeping them all separate, and I'm breaking into 4 unit fractions. Now, I'm going to move myself up here. Now, I need to show a number bond decomposing 1, so my total is 1, that top circle is 1, into 2 parts. So I had 4 up here, now I need 2 parts. But one part should be composed of 3 copies of the unit fraction. So that's a lot to take in, but we can just underline and look at what it's asking. So one part, so one of my bubbles should be grouped, composed, grouped, very similar concepts, composed of 3 copies of the unit fraction. So I look up here, this is 1 copy. 1 circle, 1/4 is 1 copy of the unit fraction. So I need a group of 3. So when I do my number bond, I have a group of 3 as 3/4, and then I have 1/4 left over. And again, what unit fractions did we copy to make the number 3/4? we know that is 1/4, right? So you had this 1/4 and you copied it 3 times. So you grouped it into 3 groups to make 1, and that was our original of 1/4. Now, what are the 2 parts of your number bond? So think about the 2 parts of our number bond and the unit. So looking at our 2 parts, what are they? What are they? We have a group of 3/4 and a group of 1/4. So if there are two parts, we know one group is 3/4, another group is 1/4. And again, think about the differences between these two. Okay, take a moment, pause your video, think about it, come on back, and we're going to keep on going. So the differences about these two are that this is now in fractions. So I have 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, but here I group 3 of these together to make 3/4, and I have 1/4 left over. Okay, so I can group them in a lot of different ways, but this one specifically said it should be composed of 3 copies of the unit fraction. So I know that I need to have 3 groups, and that gives me 1/4 as a leftover. Okay, and let's do one more together. I'm going to move myself down here again. So it says draw a number bond decomposing 1 into 5 unit fractions. So just like we did before, our total is 1, and we need to break them into 5 unit fractions, so 5 fractions. So I have my 1/5 5 times. Next, it says show a number bond decomposing 1 into 2 parts. One part should be composed of 2 copies of the unit fraction. So I know this one up here, it needs to be into 2 equal parts, but one should be a group of 2, and I need to find out what the rest of my group is. So I have my group of 2 over here, just like it said over here, and the leftovers are 3. So if I needed to, I could look up here and say, okay, I have my one part that should be composed or grouped together with 2 copies. So these 2 make this 2/5 over here, and my leftover 3/5 is 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. So I have these leftover 3 over here. So now again, I want you to think about what are 2 parts of your number bond. So what are, I'm going to move myself back up here. What are 2 parts of our number bond? So we see this number bond over here. Take a moment, make a prediction, very similar like the last problem that we did. And we know there are 3/5 and there are 2/5. So just saying it from up here, I have a group of 3/5 and a group of 2/5. So those are my 2 parts of my number bond. And last but not least, think about the differences between these 2. So just like we talked about before, this first one, we broke it into groups of 1/5, whereas this second number bond, it told us to break one group into 2 copies or 2/5, and then whatever left over was our remainder second part of our number bond. All right. So boys and girls, today for math, you're going to work a lot with number bonds, filling in the number bonds, thinking of all the different parts that there are. Please look at this video again if you need any help, and be sure to ask your teacher.